we have Kevin, Justine, we have Alexia and Margot, we have Asia, which is taking picture at the moment, and we also have Nelson and Sasha, who are not with us tonight. Of course, we are always looking for new people in case you are interested to join. We are a non-profitable association, and basically we held meetups every month, about 8 meetups a year. And in August, we have an apéro, and in December, we usually gather together to eat a fondue. For tonight, I'm going to continue talking a bit about the Webmardi. Then Jimmy will give his talk during about 45 minutes. Be careful, listen, because there will be a quiz at the end. You will be able to win something. Surprise. There will be also a space for you just before the quiz. It's called the open mic session. So in case you're looking for a job or you're looking for someone to hire, just come here. Or you want also to share about a cool project you've been working on or something cool that you discovered on the web. That's your space. And then after that, we're going for the apéro, so we'll be able to enjoy the lake, the terrace, having a few beers, and a couple of things to eat. Yeah, well, as I said, we are a non-profitable association, so we need money to have the apéro, to have all the materials that we use. So we have wonderful sponsors. Idora, Leap, Superweed, JobTrek, CPNV, and Peerdom. So they really help us to organize all these events. So thank you very much to all of them. We are also partners from JetBrains. So if you're coding, I'm sure you know JetBrains. Infomaniac, they help us to host the websites and give us access to some tools. And of course, Smashing Magazine. If you haven't heard from them, they organize conferences. They have a cool website where you can find a lot of fun articles. So we're also partner from them. And we have few things, few gifts. Not tonight, okay. But there are some stickers. Maybe you already saw them. Close to the apéro. So if ever you want, just take some. Thanks also to Leap. Leap welcomes us tonight, and they help us to sometimes host the Webmardi. So something I haven't said before, the Webmardi is hosted not only in Lausanne, but sometimes with the event in Geneva or in Fribourg. And in case you can't join, we are always online, so we are streaming every event. So you can also join online or watch meetup later in case you want. Voilà. So I will stop talking and I will give the place to Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you all for coming today. The goal of the talk is to talk about how we can build edge-ready and full-stack web applications on Cloudflare only. So Cloudflare is well known for its content delivery network. So you can easily speed up the delivery of static assets like HTML website, CSS, JavaScript, or even images. But in the past few years, they added some new products to their offering that allows you to build a full-stack web application using their infrastructure only. I talk about edge-ready application because Cloudflare has a huge park of data centers around the world that spans more than 300 locations. And when you use those new products, your code is deployed and distributed at all the locations in the Cloudflare network. And so the code runs really close to your end users, which is a really cool feature from the Cloudflare platform. So today we are going to see how we can combine some of their services to build a relatively complex feature for your web applications in a simple way. But before we dive in, I will just quickly introduce myself. So I'm Jimmy, and I work as a machine learning engineer at Visium, which is an AI consulting company created in 2018 in Lausanne. And I'm also a big fan of web development and web technologies, and I had the chance to work on the web during my studies for courses project, but also professionally, first as a student working on the side, but also in my day-to-day AI job, because we sometimes use web technologies to deliver AI models to the end users in an intuitive way. So regarding my background, I started with React, which is still my main framework, the framework I know the most. But recently I've played with Svelte and SvelteKit, and I really like them, so I invite you to try them if you haven't already. They're really, really cool. And on the backend, I have more experience with Node.js or Python. So as I told you, web technology plays a crucial role in AI. And one of the recent examples that illustrate this point is ChatGPT. So the success of ChatGPT, I think you heard about it, or maybe you even tried it, is mainly due to the quality of their AI model, but also to the simplicity of their web application and how easy it is to access the model because it's on the web, so you can just open a browser. You don't need to access complex APIs or install applications. So recently, I've been checking some technologies, investigating a bit new technologies to build a web application and integrate them with AI APIs. And I took a closer look to Cloudflare services. So that's why I will talk to you about Cloudflare today. So the agenda of this talk is to first show you a demo of an application called ShareGPT that I built to illustrate this talk. So ShareGPT is a ChatGPT clone built entirely with Cloudflare services, but it adds on top some live features. So you can create a live session, share it with other users that can join the session, and see in real time what you are doing with ChatGPT, so the generation. And they can also send you messages that you can see on the side and answer. So after we see the video, I will go through the Cloudflare serverless services that I used to build ShareGPT, and I will briefly introduce them to you, and also explain some of the use cases you can tackle with them. And then we will see those services by example. So I will concretely dive into the application and show you how I combine one or more Cloudflare services to build the application. Finally, we'll just review some other Cloudflare products that I didn't use for ShareGPT, but that I think can be useful to you if you are interested to use Cloudflare for your web development. And we'll also see some caveats that you need to know if you want to work with Cloudflare products. And of course, at the end, you can ask me any questions. So we'll first start with the ShareGPT demo. So the video will illustrate two users. So the user one will log into the app, go to the chat web page and start interacting with ChatGPT like you would do with ChatGPT. So asking the model to generate some text. And then he will create a live session and share the link to user 2 that will join the session, see in real time what happened on the screen of the user 1, and start sending messages and interacting with him. So you don't get lost. The user 1 will use the light color theme of the application, and user 2 will use the dark color theme of the application. So as you can see, user 1 login, then you have user 2. And we go to the chat web page, and we start interacting with the AI model. So as you do with ChatGPT, As you can see, we get the response as a stream, like the original app. Then user 1 creates new chats, and they appear on the side as a chat history. So you can go back to previous chats, like on ChatGPT, or you can remove the chats that you already created. Then you have the live feature, so you can toggle a button to create a live session, and you can copy the link and share it with the user 2 that will paste it into its browser, and then join the session. At this point, he can send you messages that you will receive on the side, and of course, you can answer to the message as it happens in real time. But user 2 can also send you special messages called prompt proposals. So it's a specific kind of message with a button that user 1 can click on to trigger a generation with the AI. And that's, as it's generating, user 2 sees the generation in real time in his window. So here we continue to generate, and as you can see, as we switch between the two users, they see the generation streamed in real time between their two windows. So the app is public. You can try it. So it's not mobile friendly, unfortunately, but I will let it live some days after the talk. So if you want to try it, you can access it. On the desktop, it should work, hopefully. And so if we break down the application, we have 4 main features. So a user can sign up to the application and log in. He can also start interacting with the AI model and get a response as a streaming. Then he can also create a live session and share it with another user. So the user can come, send messages, and also see in real time what happens on the screen. And finally, he can also manage the chat history. So go back to previous chats and also delete old chats. And now that we have a better idea of what the application do, I will go through the different services that I used in Cloudflare to build the application. And I will briefly introduce them to you so you know what they do and what you can do with them. So first, you have the Cloudflare worker. So it's a distributed serverless function. And if you know a bit AWS Amazon services, it's like a Lambda function. So basically, you write a function that is triggered with an event. In our case, the event is an HTTP request. So your function will receive the request as an input and needs to return an HTTP response as the output. Now, when you write this function, Cloudflare will take care of the deployment for you. So you just need to push this to the worker, and it will be automatically sent and deployed to the Cloudflare network. One of the cool features of Cloudflare workers is that they have no cold start. So cold start happens when you are not using your app for a while, and it starts to go into a sleep mode, and the next user that will make a query to your application will suffer from a longer loading time. It can be milliseconds or seconds, depending on the environment on which you run the function. The cool thing is with workers is that you don't have any cold start, so it's great for the user experience because you are not slowed. When you make a request, you get the answers directly. Also, it's deployed on the Cloudflare network, meaning that as you push your code, it's automatically distributed to the 300 and more locations available on the Cloudflare network. So your code runs really close to the end user and reduce the latency. Then regarding the language support, you can develop in JavaScript or TypeScript, but also any language that compile to WebAssembly, so Rust or C. And finally, as I told you, it's event-driven, but not only HTTP. It can also work with cron events, so you can schedule a worker to run periodically if you have background jobs to deal with. Regarding the use cases, basically it's everything that needs a backend. So you can build an API, customize some content at the edge for your user, build A/B tests, basically anything that runs on the backend. The second service I used to build ChatGPT is Cloudflare's KV. So Cloudflare's KV is a globally distributed key value store. So if you know a bit about Redis, it's similar, but a lot simplified. The main feature of Cloudflare KV is the global distribution. So when you write a key to the key value store, it's automatically replicated to all the locations in the Cloudflare network. So your data is really close to the user, And if you need it in a worker, it will be fetched from the closest location directly. One thing to know is that Cloudflare's KV is eventually consistent, meaning that when you write something into the key value store, it's not immediately available to all the locations, but it will happen eventually, and it's a guarantee. So at some point, everything will be replicated in the entire network. Finally, you can store relatively large objects as a value for each key. If I remember well, it's maybe 25 megabytes of string per value for every key. And you can store anything in a string, so it can be almost anything. So for the use cases, so you have caching API requests. You can also cache static content, and then every other use cases you can think of with Redis. So for instance, managing feature flags is really useful for that, because you don't need a strong consistency for that. The third services we use for ChatGPT, is durable objects. So a durable object is a strongly consistent and stateful object. So it's like a lambda functions or workers, which is associated with storage and also with a state that persists across different requests. So it's super useful to build real-time application. So let's say you have multiple users that connect to your app and you want to create live features like we do in ChatGPT. You can store all the WebSocket connection in the durable objects. And as they send messages, all the messages are sent to the durable objects that will broadcast the message to all the users. So then you have the nice live effects, and it's all managed by the Cloudflare ecosystem. Another cool thing is that it's globally unique. So you have for each durable object that you create, you have a unique ID that identifies the objects in the Cloudflare network, meaning that you can easily build features like chat rooms, which are associated to an ID, where a group of people join the rooms and share messages or build collaborative tools. You can also build distributed locks because it's strongly consistent, meaning that when you write something in the state or in the storage, you can wrap it into a transaction that makes sure that everything you write is written at once, and the further user will instantly see the changes. So it's really useful if you want to have, you use an API distributedly, and you want to rate limit, for instance, your utilization of the API. Then we somehow need to deploy the application on the Cloudflare network, so you can see it using a URL in your browser. To do so, we use Cloudflare Pages. So it's a continuous deployment service from Cloudflare, and it's really simple. So you just link it to a Git repository, and you configure two branches. So a main branch for the production deployment that will be linked to your domain name, and the secondary branch, which is a preview, which is super useful for staging deployment when you want to see your changes before merging them to the production. Also, as Cloudflare builds the app, it will be deployed in the entire network, so in the 300 plus locations in the world. So it minimizes also the latency of the delivery of your application. And it also gives you a free SSL certificate for your app. So you get the HTTPS for free, basically. And yeah, that's mainly it for the pages, which is really continuous deployment. Then we have the database. So Cloudflare added a cool feature, which is D1, and it's a distributed edge-ready SQL database. So it's distributed in nature, meaning that when you write data to a node in Cloudflare, it will be replicated to all the data centers in the Cloudflare network. So again, you get your data close to your Cloudflare workers, and you minimize the latency worldwide. Wherever your users are, normally you will have a Cloudflare location that is close to them. Also, it supports SQL. It's an SQL database, and it's based on top of SQLite. So it covers almost all the SQLite features that you get by default. It's also automatically scalable. So Cloudflare takes care of the infrastructure for you. It will take care of scaling your database as you make read and write operation to it. And yeah, finally, it's edge ready. So really available everywhere in the Cloudflare network. So then for the use case, everything that needs a database can be built using D1. Okay, so now that we have an idea of the different services we use to build ChatGPT, I will now show you by example how each feature is implemented by using a combination of one or more Cloudflare products. So first, the most simple one, the ChatGPT deployment. So we use Cloudflare Pages for the deployment of the app. The Cloudflare Pages is configured with two branches. So I have the main branch and the development branch. The main branch is the production deployment that is sent to the main domain of the application. And the dev branch is the preview deployment for staging and checking before you go to production. To give you a sneak peek of how it looks in the dashboard for Cloudflare, so on the top left, you can see the build history. So you can quickly see what's the current version you deployed for your application. And you can also see the history of the builds. So you can also activate a previous build if something bad happens. On the right, you see how we configure the prod deployment and the preview. So it's simply two branches, the main branch and the development branch in this case. And finally, how we configure the build command. So ChatGPT is a monorepo, so we just select a workspace and we build it, and then automatically Cloudflare will deploy it to their network. Finally, you can also specify environment variables. Here we just have two, but they get available to your applications as you deploy them. Then we have the streaming with server-sent events. So if you use ChatGPT, you are used to this kind of effect where when you ask something to the model, you get the response as it's generated. You don't wait for the whole generation and receive the entire output. So you receive it as a stream, basically. And to do this, I use Cloudflare Workers. So the API for the application is built with Cloudflare Workers. And Cloudflare Workers support natively server-sent events, which are a lightweight streaming solution. So it's a bit simpler than WebSocket because it's unidirectional, meaning that only the server can push data to the client after the first request has been sent. But for this kind of feature, it's more than enough, and so it's even easier to implement. So to give you an idea of how it works, here I removed some of the code, and I just kept what's interesting to us. But first, as you can see, we have a chat router, which exposes a route called /SSE for server-sent events. And when a user makes a generation, it first calls this endpoint. And as you call this endpoint, you can see that I call here first the OpenAI API with a fetch request. And in the fetch options, I specify that I want it in streaming mode, meaning that OpenAI will return me a stream of text, instead of the whole completion directly. Then we want to process this stream and returns it to our client. And to do so, we can use the web standard because it's natively available in Cloudflare Workers. And we build two transform streams. So the first one do some preprocessing on each chunk that we receive of data. The second one extract the relevant text that we want to send to the. And the root will first create a session by creating a durable object, which is uniquely identified by its ID. This will also return a WebSocket connection to the user, so it's subscribed to the durable object. Then, when you share the URL to another user, it will make a call to the Cloudflare and returns it to the client. After that, every client are connected together, and you can push messages to the durable object that will be broadcasted to every user. So to give you an idea of how it works, the object is really simple in Cloudflare. You just need to create a class. So here, sharing the session. And this class has to expose one function, the fetch function. Because durable objects use the HTTP protocol as their external interface. So as they receive a request, they can write things into their state. So it's anything you declare into the state of the function. So any property. And you can also access the storage because you have a memory limitation. So if you have a lot of things to keep track of, you can write them into the storage associated to the Cloudflare durable object. Here you can see that we create a WebSocket pair when we receive the request. It's a Cloudflare construct that returns two objects. First, the server side and the client side part of the WebSocket connection. We keep the server side part in the object. We store it in the sessions here, and it will be used later to broadcast messages to all the users that are subscribed to our durable object. The second part, which is the client part, is returned to the user, so it's connected to the WebSocket via the durable object. Here you can see that we just attach a simple event listener to the WebSocket on the server. So on every message, we do some boilerplate stuff, and then we broadcast the message to all the users that are subscribed, so all the WebSocket connection we have in the sessions. And that's how we get the live session feature. But quickly, to use it, you can't expose your durable object directly to the external world. You need to use them from a Cloudflare worker. So we just create a router which exposes a route. And when the user wants to join the session, he makes a query to this function that will retrieve the corresponding chat room and make a query to the durable object by calling the fetch method that we discussed before, and return the WebSocket connection to the user. So after this call, the user has joined the room and is ready to receive messages and also send messages to the other users. Then we have the data persistence. So in ChatGPT, it's really simple. We just keep track of your credentials so you can log in, and also your history of chats. So you can go back to a previous chat with the tool. You can also remove them when you want. To do that, we just use the D1 database. It's really simple. So just we create some entries in the database and delete them as you wish. To give you an idea of how it works in Cloudflare Worker, the official way to interact with the database from a Cloudflare Worker is to use a binding that is available in the Cloudflare runtime, and then you can prepare statements like regular SQL and send them to the database and retrieve the response. But on ChatGPT, I use a scene wrapper library that allows you to build the request with TypeScript, so it's easier to build from the code directly. Finally, we have the authentication. So it's really simple in ChatGPT. You have a username and a password, and we just check your credentials when you make a query, and we return a short-lived token. But we use also the key value store to handle logout. So when you log out, we temporarily write your token. We discuss some caveats that you should know about if you work with Cloudflare. So for the other services, you have first R2, which is an object storage service. If you know about AWS solutions, it's really similar to S3. So you can store any file on this storage. As usual with Cloudflare, doing so upfront can be a pain. So you need to think about all the case and have a job that pre-processes your images. But with Cloudflare Workers, you can make a call to a specific product, resolution and the quality you want for your image, and it will do it on the fly and store it in the content delivery network of Cloudflare. So every and synchronize your work. Now regarding some caveats working with Cloudflare Workers, you have some limitation on the script size of your worker. So after completion, it can be up to 10 megabytes large. Meaning, in some cases, if you have a really large backend API, it can be a problem. But you can always split your worker in multiple worker functions and overcome this problem, basically. Then you have the CPU time limit. So Cloudflare Workers have two modes, the bundled mode and the unbound mode, which is 30 seconds of CPU time available for you. You need to know that it's really CPU time. So when you make requests to an API or you make requests to a database, the time does not count while you are waiting for the response. Only the cycle of the CPU you use to process to do actual work will count. So you can do a lot of work in 50 milliseconds if you are just calling a few API and returning the response to your user. Then you have the storage. So Cloudflare Workers do not have access to the storage natively. but you can use other products from the Cloudflare ecosystem to overcome this problem. So you have, as we talked before, we have R2 as object storage. We have the database with D1, the Cloudflare key value store. So normally everything to build stateful applications. Cloudflare key value store. So normally everything to build stateful applications. And finally, the pricing at scale. And I don't think it's a problem specific to Cloudflare, but more to any serverless managed software, because at first it's easy to build your app for free because you are under the quota, the free quota. But as you scale, you can have surprise with the billing. And so you need to really pay attention to the data access pattern of your app, and also try to optimize it regarding the different costs related to the utilization of Cloudflare. For instance, when you use the database, you pay for the writes and the reads that you make. So maybe sometimes you can be a bit more clever and try to just read what you need instead of making big queries to reduce the cost that you have. So thank you for listening to me, and thank you for the organizer for this wonderful organization. I hope that you learned some useful stuff, and also that I give you maybe the envy to try Cloudflare services to build your next web application. Personally, I had a really great experience with as a developer. You can really locally develop and use all their features. So give it a try and let me know. And yeah, you can follow me on different social networks. So I have a YouTube channel where I talk about AI and web technologies. And otherwise, on LinkedIn, Instagram, or my website, I also talk about AI and web technologies. Thank you.
Any question? Okay.
So when you say it's only the CPU time, so if I have like really slow, long-running APIs and I have to wait like seconds or minutes for something to finish, then all of that it doesn't count basically, or is there another cap for like a hard timeout?
No, so this doesn't count, but you have a limitation on the number of API calls you can make that are waiting. So let's say I think you have a limit maybe of 50, I don't remember exactly, depending on the mode, that can be done in parallel, but then it can take 1 minute. It's not a problem for you. So.
Thanks. So you said for the workers, you have a way to avoid having long polling or WebSocket to stream messages to the application. And I would just have more insight of the technology that is used behind it. So how does it work actually to stream messages like push only for the client side?
Yeah, okay. So do you mean just push only, but not needing the WebSocket, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, because you said you don't have to do long polling or WebSocket for it to work.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
just having more insight of how it's working.
Yeah, no problem. I can go back to the slide.
Yeah.
I think it should be here. Okay, so that's what we use here. So what's used here is server-sent events, and it's available normally in the web standard.
Okay.
So you can create a readable stream. So here I make a request to OpenAI, and I said that I wanted its streaming mode.
Yeah.
So it returns me a first response that I can use as a stream.
Okay.
And here I can create transform stream to transform the data as I want. Mm-hmm. And here you can see that I create a new readable stream, and I return it to the user. So it returns instantly, and the browser will keep notifying your app as you receive new data without needing to manage the WebSocket or anything else.
Yeah, okay, and that's in the web standard.
Yeah, it's in the web standard, and it's implemented in as the web standard in Cloudflare Workers. Normally, it's really close. If you check out the documentation, it should be really similar.
Yeah, and I have maybe one more question.
Yeah.
So you said that they provide you with free SSL, and just wanted to know that that is Cloudflare that is signing the certificate?
Yeah, I think it's Cloudflare signing the certificate.
Yeah, okay.
So you can add your own domain on Cloudflare, and then you can associate it to a Cloudflare to a pages. and then automatically it will generate the certificate for you, and it will do the HTTPS for you upfront.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other question? Oh, yeah.
So I have a question regarding the ease of development you mentioned at the end.
Yeah.
Do they have some kind of like emulators so you can run everything on your machine, or do you have to develop with the live services?
No, so they have an emulator. So it's called the Workerd, which is the runtime for workers. And they have a CLI, which is called Wrangler, that you can use to deploy your app, but also to develop. And basically, they replicate all their features locally. So for instance, when you use D1, it will create an SQLite database in your project, and it will simulate calls to the database as it would happen in production. Same for durable objects, and same from all the one I've presented here. There are some services that are not yet supported, I think, but those are the alpha services that are not well supported for now. But then when you push it, it works. At least in my case, it was working
Nice.
really well.
Cool. And is it actually easy to set up and use, or?
Yeah, it's really easy to set
Okay.
up. Yeah, you just
Nice.
need the CLI, and you have a specific development command. There is a bit of boilerplate, so you need to create the bindings just. So you have a config file, and then it's okay. So it's really cool for developing and deploying as you developed on your machine.
Cool. I have another question
Yeah.
regarding D1. What's the consistency on it?
So it's not strongly consistent.
Okay.
So you write at a single location, and then it gets replicated to all the nodes, but you are not guaranteed of the time where it will be replicated. So some user can still have stale data while you have written the first
Okay.
thing.
But it's like the key value, so it's eventually consistent, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's eventually
Okay, okay.
consistent.
Thanks.
No problem.
I have many questions, but one of them is about price. You said it can be tricky. Do you pay from consumed minute, I think? You know?
So you pay, so for the workers, you pay for, so you have two metrics.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the CPU time, I'm not sure, and the memory time. So as it runs, it consumes some CPU time, and the memory allocated also to the worker.
Okay.
But I think in the free tier, you have, it's really generous. So you can, to build a simple application, I think you have 2 million call per month, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and generous time. So you can really build something for free at the beginning, but as you will scale, maybe you will have to start paying.
And about the price, I had a question with the call start. You said there's no call start, so you have to pay something for the zero downtime, or it's just free?
It's just
There's
free.
no flat price.
Yeah, so they use a lightweight runtime based. It's not Node.js, so it's something that is a lot lighter, and that's why also you don't have access to the file system. And that's what powered the zero called start feature from Cloudflare. So it's basically by default, and you don't need to pay for it. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other question? Okay, so I'll finish. It's okay for you. My last question is about resources. Do you have any books or videos or tutorials people can find on the web about that subject, about using Cloudflare?
So for Cloudflare, I would say you have. So first, the documentation is really good. Mm-hmm. So if you want to build something, there are some, you can refine some examples with the different services and so on. And another resource that I find useful is their Discord server. They have a Discord server for developers, so you can go there. And usually you have the official guy from Cloudflare that answer you, but you have also the community of users that can quickly give answers. So it has been useful for me a couple of times.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Last one then.
Last question. Other question regarding pricing, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you know how it compares to, for example, Lambda functions or things like that? Is it cheaper, more expensive?
Unfortunately, I don't know. I didn't do the comparison. And for this project, with the scale, which is pretty low, since it was a demo, I was under the quota for everything except durable objects. For durable objects, you need to add your card because there is no free tier, but you pay almost nothing as if you don't. I mean, if you have low usage.
Okay.
So, but I don't know actually.
When I checked, When I checked, it was slightly cheaper, and especially R2 doesn't have any egress. So if you have data that you want to serve widely to the outside, then R2 is a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good point about R2, which is really compelling compared to, I would say, S3 or the others.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just one thing before we continue. As you can see, Asia is taking picture. In case you don't want to be in this picture, just come to us afterward and we'll make sure you're not on. Good. Kevin?
My part's now.
Yes, your part.
So we will close the Webmardi and play a little count game. Yeah, you can. Just open our. So as you heard, the microphone is not for you. It's for people online, and for the video afterward. Oh, not now.
No,
I will
okay. The other,
finished before.
this one.
Yeah.
It
Slideshow.
was there. Yeah.
Perfect. So, what's next? What's the next Webmardi? It will be an apéro. It's a special one, as said Geoffroy before. It will be an apéro, so feel free to subscribe on the meetup page. Please, if you subscribe, come, because we will book a table. So if 20 people subscribe and we are just 10 people, they will yell at me, like, why did you reserve a table for 12? So if you're sure to come, just book. Otherwise, just come like that. We will find place, I'm pretty sure. It's next to the lake. This is the real view from Jeté de la Compagnie. So if you've never been there, come. If you've already been there, also come, because it's a nice spot in Lausanne. If it rains, we will find a solution. So we will move in inside bar. So yeah, we will not drop down the event. The open mic session. So this is the time for people to come here and just talk about something they want to share. If you're hiring people, if you're looking for a job, if you want to share an open source project, whatever you want, just you're welcome. And just speak on the microphone for the live stream.
Yeah, my name is Igor Kravchuk. I'm a terminal PhD student at UFL right now, and I'm looking for a job next year, basically. My PhD is something very technical, like theoretical reinforcement learning, theoretical machine learning, mainly focused on generative modeling. So also GPT, but my thing is graphs, not sequences. And I'm kind of a weird theory PhD because I also like dabbled in like web technologies and engineering. So I ran the cluster in our lab, and like I played with Cloudflare as I've already. So if there's any like company that you know, or your company would like to hire somebody who is like really like full stack machine learning from the theory to the implementation, and even the hardware, because I started in hardware design actually. So if you need a specific circuit designed, I could do that in a pinch. Yeah, like you can find me at like kravchuk.eu, which is KRAWCZUK.eu, and there's my CV on there as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Somebody else wanna talk or say something? This is the moment, you know. Afterwards, obviously, during the apéro, but yeah, come. Otherwise, I have something to say. So welcome and thank you.
So my name's Hannah Rufnacht. I'm not in dev, but I'm new to UX, and so I'm looking for a role in UX or an internship, or just kind of trying to get my feet wet. I have a background in communication and social media marketing, that sort of world. So, yep.
Thank you. Thank you. You may applause, you know. You may applause because it is hard to come here. Anybody else want to say something? Okay, I will say something. We'll try to open a new tab on this computer. Working for projects named, for free obviously. It's an open source project named Swiss Games Garden. This is the, this is backed by Pro Helvetia. This is the official Swiss Games catalog. So you have all the games released in the last 20, 30 years. And we are looking for people to help us to develop this platform. This is PHP backend, and it's a front end with React and Next.js. If you want to help on that kind of project, it's using an Elasticsearch backend for the search engine. There's a lot of job to do, obviously. The ideas of this project is to become like a Stack Overflow at the end. So people may submit games, other people can review and approve, contribute to games to improve the data, etc., etc. Because for now, data is just entered by people. You see the data quality is not really good enough. So if you want to help, just reach me. Just go to the GitHub repository or find the people contact page and just email us. People will reach you. And it is a very cool project. Obviously, it will be open source. Nobody can pay you for this job. So yeah, I know. This is the tricky part. But if you want help, you're welcome. Anybody else want to say something? Otherwise, I continue. Perfect. So, follow us on Instagram. Yeah, Asia want to say something. I heard someone whispered something.
So I do photography for Webmardi, but I'm also media engineer at school, and I finish next year, and I'm looking for a bachelor project for next year. I want to do data visualization, so something like that, or just web development, and yeah, I'm there if you are.
I may have a project for you about Swiss Games Garden. Cool. Thank you, Asia. Please follow us on Instagram if you are not already followed us. You will have access to all the photos posted by Asia. You will see the next announcement. You will have access to the throwbacks, kind of like a video of the last event, sneak peek of the event. Yeah, if you don't follow us, please follow us. Give us some love. On YouTube also, subscribe. It will help us to grow the channel. And every events are normally on the event, except when we have issues. It happens sometimes, but it's pretty rare. So yeah. And the newsletter. If you are not on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever you want, we understand. So we have a newsletter for you. You can take the pictures here to go to this URL. We send one email by month, don't worry. And we don't sell your email. We don't use your email for anything else than sending you the next event. We don't send the email, for example, to the sponsors. They don't have access to that.